So over to you, sir. Yeah, thank you, Namita. So, good evening, everyone. So, as an oncologist, we all know that for EGFR, we have many molecular available for targeting that constitutive activation pathway of EGFR. Similarly, and we were discussing about sequencing of those EGFR targeted therapy. Similarly, ERA has come for ALK targeted therapy also. Because of we have availability of 4-5 molecule with us, and which one to choose first, and what all the data with all the different molecules. So we'll go through that in a little bit detail. So the topic is like same, the recent updates in therapeutic landscape for ALK positive driven NSCLC. So basically, this is also a constitutive activation of ALK kinase pathway, and which is involved in cell proliferation, invasion, and loss of apoptosis. So basically, if we talk about percentage, how common is that ALK mutation in carcinoma of lung stage 4 cancer? So first of all, it is found in both adeno and squamous. Although in adeno, percentage is much higher, and in squamous it's only I think it's very less than 1% or so. So if we talk about European data, EGFR was in much higher percentage. ALK was in 3.7, and in US, among all the adenocarcinoma, ALK was 8%. So, like again, taking the corollary from EGFR, when it came into the presentation around I would say 7-8 years back. Earlier, we used to say EGFR is 15%, 20%. When that Indian data is emerging, so far percentage is going up to even beyond 40% some of the studies. Similarly, ALK percentage is also rising day by day. Maybe because IHC has been proven that it might be sufficient. Recently, it has been proved, and because of better understanding pathologically, so its percentage has increased to 8%, even in Indian continents. So earlier we were seeing only 3 to 4%, but it has doubled to 8%. And among the various methods which are used to detect the ALK mutation presentation in CA lung, FISH was the one of the method which was approved initially, and this is fluorescent probes which labels this green and red one, and there is a fusion of the protein. So this fusion of the genes. So this gene fusion is detected by the FISH method, and obviously IHC detects the protein presented by these fusion of the genes. So detection of protein by IHC, and if many copies of DNA produced from minute quantity RNA source material is taken with the help of RT-PCR. This is also one of the method. And last but not the least is NGS. That is next generation sequencing, which is very much into the picture nowadays in every malignancies and much talked about, because this is high throughput sequencing using massively parallel sequencing technology. Basically, this is a broad panel assay in which a lot of mutations can be detected at one go. So that is the beauty of that NGS. So basically, multiple tests require larger tissue volume. We first do EGFR, then if it is negative, then go for ALK, Roche, MET, BRAF. So it takes a lot of tissue into consideration, which sometimes is not possible. So as the newer recommendation, most recent ESMO guideline recommend broader molecular profiling to identify rare driver mutation using multiplex or NGS to ensure that patient receive the most appropriate treatment. So that was the thing I was discussing, that even ESMO guideline recommended broader molecular profiling using NGS, and even NCCN endorsed the same thing. Practically, most of the institute are doing is even still today testing for EGFR, ALK, ROS1, PDL1 upfront. Sometimes CMET also. In fact, I am doing EGFR, ALK, ROS, PDL1 as of now. But yes, we should switch over to NGS-based panel to detect all the possible mutations available in that particular patient, so that we can hit that particular target. Like we can include BRAF also, because we have newer molecule against that. So EGFR, ALK, ROS, MET, BRAF, PDL1, HER2. So there are all molecular markers which we need to know in any case of CA lung. So basically there is a move from one mutation, one test to one patient, one test. What does this mean? One mutation, one test means if we are thinking of EGFR, then we'll go for one particular test. If you are thinking for ALK, then we'll go for FISH. For BRAF, we'll go for RT-PCR. For Roche, we'll go for RISH. For MET, we will go for RT-PCR. So this was the idea which we were following, and still we are following this idea, which is supposed to be very cumbersome and more tissue is required in this. Therefore, we should all switch to one patient, one test with the NGS platform, next generation sequencing. Because all the available mutation at one go, turnaround time is also less rather than the sequential doing all these tests. So ALK, EGFR, BRAF, Roche, MET, everything will get into one test only, that is NGS. Now, if we see the history of ALK inhibitor, we all know crizotinib was the first molecule, and we have been using in this molecule since last, I would say, 7 or 8 years. Crizotinib 2013, and then ceritinib came. Initially, it was approved for the second line therapy after failure of crizotinib, and then seeing the good response of this ceritinib in 2016, then trial were conducted. I think it was ASCENT-4 for the first line setting in NSCLC stage 4 ALK mutation positive. So it was conducted as a first line as compared to chemotherapeutic drugs, and has shown obviously much better advantage than the chemotherapy. Then came the alectinib initially in the second line, then switched to the first line, and then the data emerged in 2019, late 19, of ASCENT-4 Asian subgroup, because we are concerned with that data, more of that data, and lorlatinib came into the picture after that. And then discussion came whether these are second generation or third generation. This lorlatinib and brigatinib, I think these two are taken as a third generation ALK inhibitor. So their role in the brain mets patients. And then now the future of these molecules is that they are trying to combine with immuno-oncological drugs also, lorlatinib with avelumab. I believe these combination they are trying just, avelumab is by the Pfizer company. Pembro is by, although this is different, crizotinib and Pembro is different. Alectinib and Tecentriq both are by the same company, Roche. So they are trying to combine with the immuno-oncological drug after progression on these drugs also. So this was the landmark trial which we can say for ALK inhibitor, which was published in NEJM, and this is profile 1014. Which is showing crizotinib response rate as compared to chemotherapy, which was standard till then. So progression-free survival, there is a good difference of around 4 months in PFS, 10.9 with the crizotinib and 7.1 with the chemotherapeutic arms. And if we talk about after 1.5 years, 31% patients were responding. So PFS is 31%. Overall response rate is also huge. After that, as I said, came the ceritinib. So that was the ASCENT-4 trial for ceritinib, in which they have shown, again as compared to chemotherapy, 16.6 month, 8 versus 8.1 month. So it has gone beyond crizotinib, around 6 to 7 months in PFS. Overall response rate is also same, 72% almost with the ceritinib, but PFS is huge, 1.5 years with ceritinib. And then the data emerged in late 2019 about the same ASCENT-4 trial, in which they have analyzed Asian patient subgroup analysis. First line ceritinib versus chemotherapy in ALK rearranged NSCLC, and there is a good hazard ratio of 0.66, means there was a reduction of 34% in the risk of progression or death with the ceritinib. So good outcome with the ceritinib in terms of, particularly in the Asian population. Then in the ASCENT-4, which I was discussing in the previous slide, they have used ceritinib in the dose of 600 milligram twice a day. 600 milligram 600 milligram once a day, and obviously there were a lot of side effects also in ASCENT-4. Then ASCENT-8 study was designed in the same Asian patient population, to assess whether we can use the lower dose if we use with the low fat meal as compared to the serotonin standard of 600 milligram till that period. So in this trial, key eligible criteria was age more than or equal to 18 years, stage 3, B4, ALK positive NSCLC, treatment naive. So it was tried in the first line setting. ALK positive status IHC was allowed in this trial, or FDA approved fish. Basically, if IHC was positive, then it was taken as positive. If it is indeterminate, then we go for fish. Same like we go for HER2 in the breast cancer patients. Good performance status less than or equal to 2 were allowed, and a unique point in this trial was neurologically stable brain metastases were taken, whether they were symptomatic or not, but they were taken into account in this trial. And there were 3 arms: 450 milligram per day with the low fat meal, 600 milligram with low fat meal, and 750 under the fasted state. So these were the 3 drugs, and this may be continued until unacceptable toxicity or disease progression or some other withdrawal of consent was the reason for stopping of this drug. So they analyzed the pharmacokinetics of all three levels, and they came to the conclusion there was no clinically meaningful difference in the steady state pharmacokinetic of serotonin between the 2 arms, 450 milligram with meal, 750 milligram in the fasting. So I believe after this trial we can take it as a standard dose. With meal we can use 450 milligram once a day. Secondary endpoint was taken or response rate and duration of response, and as per the resist and safety and incidence severity adverse event were also taken into consideration. So in this population, in this trial, we see partial response was 82% in this 450 milligram arm, otherwise 78, 76, 750. So in fact, it is better than the other arms. Even stable disease was 13.8. It was better than the other 2 arms. Oral response rate was also better, 88.8. So these were the better in all the aspect in the outcome. Median duration of response, it's not achieved in the 450, then 20 milligram 600, 20 months in the 600 milligram. And even at the 3 year, 36 month, they have shown duration of response rate. This is 68%, huge benefit with the 450 milligram with the meal. Again, the same trial, and in this graph, they have shown Kaplan-Meier curve with the probability of event-free, and this is also better with the serotonin 450 milligram fed state rather than the fasting state. PFS and overall survival, which are all they have shown better with the 450 milligram with the meal. So in this trial, they concluded overall results from this analysis showed a higher response rate and clinical efficacy of serotonin treatment naive patients with ALK positive advanced metastatic NSCLC consistent with the results in the primary reports of in the ASCENT-8 study. So basically 450 milligram with low fat meal showed numerical higher efficacy and less GI toxicity compared with the 750 milligram per day. Then came the issue of whether patient presented with the brain metastasis, we should give straight away this drug or go for radiation or not. This was the idea to assess in this trial. So basically 70% of the patients don't have brain metastasis at the diagnosis. So 30% develop later on, and 18% have liver, 40% have bone metastasis. So basically, as I said, 30% brain mets, 70% no brain mets. So these are the 2 clinical different scenario where we have to analyze the outcome of this serotonin, this experimental drug as per this trial. Patient with the brain mets 10.7 months as compared to 6.7 with the chemo. No brain mets, huge benefit, 26.3 per month. So more than 2 year median PFS with the serotonin. Site of metastasis in ALK inhibitor naive patients, brain 31 to 40%. But we need to keep in mind after failure of first line, percentage of brain metastasis is much higher, that is 60 to 70%. Sorry. So metastasis in the lung, 75 to 90% in the upfront. Later on it's reduced, bone also increasing, liver is also increasing. CNS was the primary site of relapse in almost 50% of all cases of progression with the first line drug, that is crizotinib. So that was the outcome in the previous trials. So again we come to the back to the ASCENT-4, which was the, we can say, landmark trial for the ceritinib. And in this they have also analyzed intracranial response, which were high response and durability of this benefit in brain with the ceritinib. So difference is around 45% with the chemotherapeutic arm. 72% was the intracranial response rate, which is very good as per the percentage. Duration of response is also very high, 16.6 months as compared to chemotherapy. So in this we have discussed intracranial response is better with this ASCENT-4. So now after this ceritinib, we have the availability of alectinib also. This is promoted by some other company, Roche. Alectinib was approved in the doses of 600 milligram twice a day, and initially the trial was JLX, in which they have done the study in Japanese population particularly. And after the very good result of alectinib in Japanese population, then this trial was designed, ALEX, which is international. In all over the countries were taken, multinational countries were taken into account for this alectinib. And beauty of this trial is that they have taken alectinib and crizotinib as a comparator arm, which was a standard. So this alectinib has shown better than the crizotinib also, 25.7 months in the PFS. Mind it, in the previous slide we have shown ceritinib also has shown the roughly same PFS with the in this scenario. Although they have not compared with crizotinib, but outcome is equivalent, 25.7 months of PFS. If we talk about CNS progression, alectinib is only 9.4% at 1 year, with as compared to crizotinib, it's 41%. So 50% of the patient almost come with the brain metastasis after crizotinib. So safety profile is also very good with the alectinib. Quality of life data is also showing favorable results in the alectinib arm. Sorry, this ASCENT-4 was for ceritinib arm. So after the availability of these three drugs, the first runner may be important in ALK positive analysis. If we talk about sequencing, like we were discussing for the EGFR, crizotinib 7.4 months is the PFS time period with the brain metastasis. With no brain metastasis, more than around 10.9 months. And ceritinib is 10.7 for brain mets, 26 around more than 2 years for non-brain metastasis. Alectinib 27.7 for brain mets, and I think 34 months with non-brain mets, around 3 years. So if we see these outcomes, and although we should not compare across trials, but still for the sake of simplicity, alectinib is supposed to be the best one as we are seeing the outcome. But PFS wise, if we are seeing, it's almost similar as compared with the ceritinib. So ceritinib is the optimum choice in the first line setting if we talk about the outcome in the PFS, either it is brain metastasis or without brain metastasis. Side effect profile, which we are worried more about these side effects. Visual disorder only exclusively seen with the crizotinib. Some color, yellowish discoloration in front of eyes, various vague complaint by the patients, and this is very common, visual disorder. And at least in my practice, I am seeing roughly around 70 to 80% patient has this visual disorder, but this is not a problematic this thing, toxicity, and patient gets adapted to this type of effect. Edema, fatigue is seen in almost all these drugs. LFT alteration, GA side effect is also very common with all the drugs. In fact, it is more with the ceritinib. Sorry, with the 450 it is almost similar with the crizotinib, more with the 750 fasting disease. So it is very well accepted side effect with the serotonin 450 milligram with the meal. Now we are in 2020 and latest NCCN is showing these guidelines that alectinib is the preferred one, category 1. But yes, serotonin is also category 1 and newer molecule that is brigatinib is also coming as a category 1 with good response in the brain. 1 year back, I think all were in the same category and still this year also it's not much change. And taking from the crizotinib, serotinib, brigatinib, alectinib, all are taken as a category 1 recommendation depending on affordability. And good and outcome difference is obviously there as we have discussed earlier. So in ASCENT-4 trial ALK inhibitor, naive patients with ALK positive serotonin showed significantly improved PFS and numerically improved OS, although data is not mature. Regarding OS, I would like to say alectinib data has come of late in ESCO 2020 for ALEX trial, and OS is showing favorable with the alectinib. I'm not remembering exact data. So PFS benefit was also seen regardless of the brain metastasis. GI side effect was manageable. Efficacy and safety of serotonin was well established in Asian population. So these are the some of the points to consider when we start patients upfront. First, superior efficacy in first line. So obviously, whichever drug is have best efficacy, better efficacy, we should use. Why? Because many patients may not survive to receive it. So, best drug upfront. Second point, no brain metastasis at baseline. So, in what way we should choose? Use of brain penetrable TKI to prevent brain metastasis we should have keep in mind, like brigatinib, alectinib, serotonin. These three drugs have brain penetration. Even lorlatinib also have brain penetration. So basically all drugs have brain penetration except crizotinib. Probably and best brain penetration is with the alectinib and maybe with the brigatinib, which is yet to come in the market. So symptomatic disease, use of agent with rapid response is required. Second line agent post progression, we should have some second line option in the backup for using after progression. So these are some of the points when we keep in mind which one to choose upfront. This is a sequencing as per the cost effective and outcome. Serotinib 16.6 months, crizotinib 10.9 months, and on progression if you use serotinib it's only 5.4 months PFS. And again chemo 2 months. So chemo is adding only 2 months, so almost equivalent, and 19 months is good outcome, which is with the serotinib from the day 1. So serotinib has won the game in this presentation that way. So straight away we can use the serotinib for good outcome. Asian patients still much better, 26.3 months and 28 months is the outcome than the sequential. Even in the sequential, we have used lorlatinib as a third line drug in some of the patients, but still the data is showing serotinib is still better than the using sequential drugs. So that is the idea. Assuming then this is just to vote for voting. Assuming you had access to all the available drugs, which first line ALK inhibitor would you choose? So basically, choice are all correct, but depending on patient affordability, performance status, and duration of response, affordability. So all these factors will be taken into account. Sometimes we still use crizotinib upfront because of cost issue, and serotinib is obviously another choice if we take cost into account. So and alectinib is very costly, beyond reach of a common man, middle class man, and brigatinib is yet to come. So my choice over here will be either serotinib or alectinib upfront. So although this was a voting question, but still I have explained this. I think this is the end of the talk. I would stop here. Any